Capitalism forgets that life is social, and the kingdom of brotherhood is found neither in the thesis of communism nor the antithesis of capitalism, but in a higher synthesis. It is found in a higher synthesis that combines the truths of both. Martin Luther King Jr., one of the greatest Americans in the history of the United States.
We're going to raise all boats, or we're going to just raise the yachts. And without any accountability, to try to bring in big businesses here. One of the articles in the Pulp was talking about how we want to beautify the city so that a CEO's wife likes to shop here. That way the CEO will want to bring his business here. That is ridiculous. We want to talk about functionality over fashion.
Ed, same question.
Well, I'm sorry, could you repeat it?
Sure. Joshua?
Could you repeat the question for me?
Sure.
The only way that Pueblo City is going to solve her problems, the only way Pueblo City is going to solve her problems is with intelligence and creativity. Intelligence and creativity, we're going to have to try different ideas. We're going to need to solve our problems. We got problems, we need to solve them. And since they haven't been addressed, many structural problems such as poverty hasn't even been addressed. You think Peter Roper and the chief didn't give a damn about poverty? No. They want to maintain the capitalist structure so you always have poor people and homeless people to do the dumb work. They want a caste system. They want a poor class. So it's by design. It's intentional. It's intentional.
Why do I pursue sustainability and self-sufficiency? I'm going to tell you, 25% of this city lives below the poverty line. So more than 1 in 4 people live close to the poverty line. What is that going to facilitate? Childhood malnutrition, high crime rates, lack of contributed members of society, traditional government subsidy, handout cash, handouts. How can we solve this?
Josh Bruns is reading leading authors, and he's encouraging the rest of the community to read leading authors too.
I'd love you all to go check out Joel Magnuson. Joel Magnuson, okay, sustainability, local self-sufficiency.
Joel C. Magnuson is a Buddhist, and he's an economist, an independent economist based in Portland, Oregon. He's the author of Mindful Economics, How the U.S. Economy Works, Why It Matters, and How It Could Be Different, the Approaching Great Transformation Toward a Livable Post.
So we're going to transform rather than transition, for those folks that kind of get scared about a big shift in government. But hey, that's what one of the ballot initiatives is, changing the form of government. So a localized system where the community members themselves impact and influence socioeconomic direction. We do this with direct democracy in the workplace and in the government.
So Josh Bruns and Ed Brown, they had a debate the other day, and here's the highlights. First of Josh Bruns.
Joshua, do you support the ballot issue to establish a mayor-council form of government?
I understand that we want a government that is going to work for the people. Everybody wants that. I understand that.
On the question of Big Daddy Strange, who's this, so-called strong mayor, but it's not even a strong mayor anymore. It's like a weak mayor. It's like a moderate mayor, right? They're not even saying that it's a strong mayor anymore. The only thing that Peter Roper wrote was that Bruns charged the current ballot question was written behind closed doors and doesn't reflect the community. If the people decide to do this, they can write it, he said. And this is one of the biggest problems that Peter Roper and the chieftain have with Joshua Bruns, because Joshua Bruns is in favor of a true blue, pure democracy, direct democracy, where all the people have the power. But that's the thing with representative democracy. These elite assholes, they like representative democracy because you only have to influence 1 or 2 or 3 people. But to have direct democracy, you got to influence the entire city. So that's what Peter Roper said about what Bruns said. Let's see if he's accurate.
This initiative was written by lawyers behind closed doors without any community oversight or accountability whatsoever. Our law, our 1954 charter, says that we, the people, we're home rule. We have a right to define what our government is. And this initiative you're going to see 2 paragraphs on the ballot. It's 10 pages long. It's legalese, and it's not written by the people. Community oversight committees, we need to institutionalize this. This is one of the rights of the city council members. So, as its own functioning body and oversight, a check and balance on the legislative branch. And if they want an executive branch, fabulous. But let's let the people decide what the executive branch can and cannot do, what his or her job description is. Not, well, let's throw it on the ballot.
Peter Roper is only protecting his friends, and he's going after his enemies. That's what Peter Roper is doing. Peter Roper is not fair and balanced. Peter Roper doesn't tell you all the news that's fit to print. So when he says that Bruns charged the current ballot question was written behind closed doors, that wasn't the only thing that he said. In fact, that sentence was, it was written behind closed doors. Lawyers wrote it behind closed doors.
This initiative was written by lawyers behind closed doors without any community oversight or accountability whatsoever.
Where did the lawyers go? I guess Peter Roper pretends what? Lawyers are just part of the establishment background and they shouldn't be mentioned. All lawyers should be protected. Is that what Peter Roper is saying? Because he didn't just say behind closed doors. He said lawyers wrote it behind closed doors. And then he went on to mention that it's that Pueblo City is a home rule city, that what they did was illegal. Section 1.-2 says we must have a charter convention. That was not in the works at all. We have not had a charter convention. Out that it's 2 paragraphs long. This is Big Daddy Strange right here. Question 2A. It's actually a lot longer than two paragraphs. It's one big long paragraph, right? But that's probably about 3 or 4 paragraphs. And then there's 70 changes. 70 changes, and I don't know if it was specifically written behind closed doors, but it wasn't a charter convention. It wasn't a charter convention. So this Chamber of Commerce group, they wrote it off to the side with a bunch of lawyers, with a bunch of legalese, just like Josh Bruns said, and the people in a charter convention were not invited. They were not invited. So this little group, this side group off to the side wrote this thing. They might have got some input here and there, but they wrote it. They wrote it. They wrote 90% of this thing. So whatever small changes the other people that they came across may have changed it with, they did not involve the people. When it comes to the 3 branches of government, it's quite interesting how he wants to organize the 3 branches. He was saying that we need civilian oversight over the legislature, and then he's questioning whether we should have an executive or what kind of executive do we need.
As its own functioning body and oversight, a check and balance on the legislative branch, and if they want an executive branch, fabulous. But let's let the people decide what the executive branch can and cannot do, what his or her job description is. Not, well, let's throw it on the ballot.
So Josh Bruns kind of questions whether or not we even need an executive branch, because he believes in the people so damn much that even when they elect their representatives, he still wants the people to be in charge. He wants the people to be over city council. This scares the shit out of Peter Roper. Peter Roper don't want the people involved whatsoever. Peter Roper, I mean, this is weird. You're trying to get people to vote for your candidate, but what the editorial of the Chieftain, they said that they're going to go with Ed Brown because he's safe. And that's it. They said that Ed Brown has no new ideas. He's very, he's not dynamic. He's not interesting. It's just a safe choice. So the Chieftain apparently is afraid of new ideas. They hate new ideas. They hate young, bold, vibrant, super political rock stars who have good ideas. They cannot stand good ideas. They want just a bunch of kiss asses, just a bunch of people that they can influence and manipulate. And that's what they want. That's what they want. They don't want democracy. They don't want candidates that have good ideas. They don't want candidates that have any ideas at all. They don't want any of these candidates to have any ideas because they don't give a shit what direction this country or this city goes. They don't care what direction this city goes.
We'll now have opening remarks from Joshua Bruns.
Thank you. I'm going to summarize my platform for you. 2 things: economic sustainability, self-sufficiency.
And being capitalist, so a bunch of rich fuckers do as the fuck as they please and everything.
The economy and in the government by brokering and empowering participation. Economic functions. We can look towards the many styles of cooperatives, worker self-directed enterprises.
But I've never heard him actually criticize capitalism. I'll criticize capitalism. So what is this thing that we're doing here with capitalism? We're going to go ahead and let the rich people do as the hell they want to do this, do that. They're above the law anyways, right? And then we're going to give them millions of dollars to come here. So these capitalists, having a capitalist system just means a bunch of rich assholes does as the fuck as they please, and it's all supposed to make everything better magically. The magical, invisible hand of the free market is just going to make everything better. If rich people can do as the fuck as they please, if they could just keep on collecting wealth and taking money and keep on taking all your money, then that's going to be a great society. We have no social safety net. We got 25% are poor.
Do you think that Petco should, with voter approval, support grocery and or pharmacy jobs on Pueblo's east side?
Okay, we got some problems with Petco. Joe Latino's complaining about $60 million.
Another thing that I noticed about Josh Bruns, he's listening to other people. He listens to other people. I didn't hear Ed Brown quote anybody, but Josh Bruns, he quotes Mark Aleph. He quotes Mark Aleph. When it comes to the street repair tax, he quotes Michael Stapleton. When it comes to the government balancing their budget before asking the people to balance their budget, he quoted Bob Schilling when Bob Schilling said we should use the marijuana revenues to apply that to the Parks and Rec Department. And then he also quoted Jason Muniz when it comes to turning those power stations 5 and 6 into battery stations. So Josh Bruns listens to other people. He listens to other people. He's responsive. He wants your vote. He wants your vote. And sustainability is one way the East Side could feed themselves, raise your gardens. But I'm not for sure if that will work.
So a lot of folks are concerned that we're going to be doing handouts and we want to give these food deserts sustenance. Oh my gosh, could you imagine?
Josh Bruns mentioned the food deserts. He mentioned the food deserts, and then he also mentioned that he doesn't want to give out handouts. Why is Peter Roper, is he all of a sudden in favor of handouts now? Josh Bruns says he's not for handouts. He was against the street repair tax because we already got money in the pipeline, so he's against the street repair tax. He's against handouts, and he says that the best way to get the east side, because that's the food desert that we have here, they don't have a grocery store where the Petco's got $60 million. $60 million, but they're not allowed to get the people a grocery store because we're only supposed to give Walmart CEO executives billions of dollars. Is that the reason? So clearly Peter Roper is in favor of the 1%. He's in favor of the big bankers. And then when it comes to the newspaper, they're not actually telling us what we need to know. They're just trying to sell a product. It's a business. So they're trying to make their advertisers happy, and that's it. That's all they care about. They don't care.
Why don't we instead empower the people to create their own, to own their own? We don't need to be handing out money. We can create the avenues. We can. What kind of resources do you need? Not traditional subsidy. Economic advancement. If we're going to be raising standards of living, why wouldn't more people want to come and live here? If we build it, they will come.
We have 1,000 homeless people, 1,000 homeless kids. Peter Roper is not concerned about those homeless kids. He doesn't give a damn. What do the capitalists want? The capitalists just want to push the homeless people on out. And if you know what, they happen to be found floating in the Arkansas River, they're not going to lose one crocodile tear over that. 1,000 of our kids are homeless. But Peter Roper, he sleeps soundly at night. He doesn't give a crap. He doesn't give a goddamn about the poor kid who's having to live on the goddamn streets. He's Peter Roper. He's got a job, and his job is to protect the elite and to protect the 1% and the bankers. He is against the people. He's against direct democracy. He's against a pure direct democracy because he's a piece of shit. He's an absolute garbage. He's absolute white trash. Peter Roper is white trash piece of shit.
Joshua?
So I used to live in Park City, Utah. They got a recycling center. It's for profit. People bring in stuff they don't want, and the recycling center sells it for a profit, and everybody wins. And
so Josh Bruns is against direct subsidies, so he's not giving anybody any handouts. He's against direct subsidies, and then he's for a for-profit recycling center. A for-profit recycling center. That's capitalism. That's pro-capitalism. And he's saying that we can get a recycling center. He said that they had something in Utah. There is some for-profit recycling center. The recycling center would pay for your stuff, and then they would turn around and sell it, and they would make money. That's win-win all across the board. Right now, Chris Nichols said he was going to get us a free drop-off site. He lied. He didn't give us a free drop-off site. That's why there's trash all over the place. Now, he didn't give us a free drop-off site. In fact, he changed it. They had got a grant, and they tried to combine it with this other thing, and now they want to charge you. So if you take your stuff to that dump, now they want to charge you for it. Josh Bruns wants to buy your...
There's no reason that community-directed recycling centers shouldn't be appropriate in, each district. My platform is sustainability, so we want to be sustainable both in our economy and in our environment.
Josh Bruns doesn't just want to put these for-profit recycling centers in one centralized location. He wants them in all the districts. So he wants these for-profit recycling centers all throughout Pueblo City, and that's pro-capitalism. So actually it seems like you're the one who's against capitalism. Chieftain, Pueblo Chieftain, why don't you want for-profit recycling centers all over the place? Is it because you're in favor of trash all over the place? Is it because you're against capitalism? Is that what it is? You hate capitalism? And of course the Pueblo Chieftain hates capitalism. They're the monopoly. You can't get more anti-American than a monopoly. And what did we learn in a monopoly? What does a monopoly want to do? They want to take all your money and bankrupt every single one of you, and they want to have all the money. They want to take every bit of it. That's what a monopoly wants. We believe in fair competition. They want a free market. Well, it's not a fair competition with monopolies. Monopolies are anti-American.
So folks for at-large are really concerned about the existing businesses. It's like, well, okay, I think we're smart enough to be able to bolster these businesses to include these people so that we're not concerned about putting them out of business because we got mandated, but
there was some concern about the local trash businesses and how they're going to be put out of business if we mandate trash collection. And Josh Bruns says there's no reason why we shouldn't be able to include the local businesses. So just because you have a bunch of for-profit recycling centers all over the place, now the local trash companies might complain and say that that's going to take their business away. Well, I need my trash picked up and we need a free spot. So if you're not offering that service, then we're going to have to get somebody else. But if those trash companies pick up the slack, if they pick up the slack and they start these recycling centers, now they'll be the ones who make the money. Isn't that how capitalism works? Right? If you have the better service and the better product, then you win. And if you don't, then you lose.
As long as the community owns it, as the workers own it, and not the government, so it's not this forced, big government issue. Let's have the community being for profit.
Josh Bruns is of a Bernie Sanders, Jill Stein kind of quality. Talking about raising the high standard of living, Josh Bruns is. He does want a robust middle class.
What kind of resources do you need? Fixing houses, creating more places to live, high intensity gardening initiatives on blighted lots or aquaponic farming creates money for those who own the initiative as well as the lot's owner. It's a win-win, it's proactive.
So what's Peter Roper's problem? He don't want gardens everywhere? I don't know. Peter Roper wasn't part of the greatest generation. During World War II, Peter Roper, they had these things called victory gardens. And what's the problem with gardening? Why do you hate gardening so much? And aquaponics. There's so many goat heads all over the place. Peter Roper doesn't give a shit about the goat heads and the poison ivy. He doesn't give a shit. It's not even on the noxious weeds list. You can raise an entire garden of poison ivy, and that's not illegal here in Pueblo City. So that's what Peter Roper wants. Peter Roper doesn't want beautiful gardens in every yard. He wants poison ivy yards all throughout Pueblo City. He hates new ideas. He hates bold, vibrant ideas such as aquaponic gardening, such as local gardening, such as city gardens. He hates city gardens.
There's lots we can do to be creative instead of just, hey, more money this way, more money. Why don't we follow up with our leading authors? Why don't we cite them?
Do you think that Petco has been effective, or should the city change its economic development approach?
All right, I'm going to say again, Joe Latino's worried about $60 million up in the air, so let's take a look at that. How about some community oversight? How about some accountability and transparency? We got a private corporation taking taxpayer dollars and without any accountability to try to bring in big businesses here. One of the articles in the Pulp was talking about how we want to beautify the city so that a CEO's wife likes to shop here. That way the CEO will want to bring his business here. That is ridiculous. We want to talk about functionality over fashion.
So Germany, Denmark, a lot of the Scandinavian countries, they do both socialism and capitalism better than the United States does. Germany has one of the highest outputs in the entire world. They are one of the greatest capitalist countries in the world, and they take care of their workers. They take care of their citizens. They got free health care. You can go to a spa. They'll give you a prescription for a spa.
If we allow for economic advancement that perpetuates higher standards of living, these rehab initiatives that the community can do, we don't need to be hiring contractors for these single-family homes. There's a lot of folks within the community that want to give back, that want to help this city become, desirable. So absolutely, we can do this through co-ops, worker self-directed enterprises, the sharing initiatives. This type of thing is going to retain people. It's going to attract people. People are coming here. I mean, you look at the storms. Look at standards of living. Look at population densities. People are coming. So in order to be able to supply for these people, we need to look at our economic system and say, is it buying for the people, or is it...
Okay, Joshua, what will you do to deal with the growing number of homeless people and panhandlers in Pueblo?
This is my platform. My platform is to increase the standards of living for the many, to raise all the yachts, all the boats instead of just the yachts. When we do that, we can then concentrate on adjacent social classes. When we're providing food and shelter and clothing in ubiquity, so people can access it, if you build it, they will come.
Josh Bruns is in favor of a for-profit recycling center that's pro-capitalistic, and it's also anti-trash. So this is a plan that will work. This is a great, bold idea that would work. Right now, the current city council, they failed on this. They had 2 years to get this done. They didn't do it. They didn't get this accomplished. So, I mean, what would be the downsides to having a for-profit recycling center? What's the downsides to that? There's none. The recycling center makes money, and then they pay you to drop stuff off. So they want you to drop your plastics and your metals and your, aluminum, whatever it is. They want you to drop your stuff off. You drop your stuff off there. It could easily be free, but they're going to pay you to do it. They're going to pay you to do it. Chris Nickel wants to charge you for your own trash. Josh Bruns wants to pay you to turn your recycling materials into the recycling.
We're going to raise all boats, or we're going to just raise the yachts? What are we doing here? We want to be sustainable by ourselves, sufficient by ourselves, as much as we can, increasingly. Provide products and services ourselves. We're going to retain income to Pueblo. It's going to keep people here. It's going to raise the standard of living about this. But I'm going to echo Mark Aliff. We got $9 million in superfluous funds. We got Petco that needs to be looked at for more accountability. Let's balance the budget. I'm going to quote Mr. Stapleton directly. Let's balance our budget before we ask the citizens to balance theirs. Then we can look at these issues of homelessness or non-contributive members of society with rehab programs for single-family homes, creating more spaces to live. Let's involve the community. Let's let the community make the decisions. They want a better community. Folks, they live here. Their interests are directly in mind because, hey, this is our lives. This is our daily life, our daily quotidian.
So, Peter Roper, the definition of quotidian is of or occurring every day. Daily, ordinary, or everyday, especially when mundane. This is our quotidian lives. That's what, who the hell uses the word quotidian? A smart man uses the word quotidian. And it also shows that he does not condescend down to us. He doesn't condescend down to us. He's actually trying to talk to us. So he's not changing his language. He's not dumbing down his language. He thinks that we're smart. He thinks that we're capable. He believes in democracy. He believes in the people of Pueblo City. The chieftain, however, does not. And I've actually seen some of these other newspapers. It's just an editorial, but now that editorial is going viral. Now all the other big media outlets, these sensational big business media outlets who don't tell us the truth, but they do say a bunch of sensational bullshit so they can get their advertisers, make their advertisers happy.
Joshua?
I'll tell you who can afford it. The community can afford it. Cooperative, sharing initiatives, worker-owned, self-directed enterprises, community-owned. I took a class at the University City is a work of art, how to repurpose the city to increase walkability, to increase access. More eyes on the street is a safer street. More eyes is a safer street. More eyes, more feet on the street, more money is being spent on local businesses. More people on the street, more that it creates community. So to demolish buildings that we already have, I'm sorry, but I cannot follow that. Muniz talks about battery stations for solar. I support that absolutely. If we can bring this forth to the community, ask for input, for comments, for proposals, you'd be shocked if you just, you got 2 ears and 1 mouth, you can use them accordingly. You'd be shocked at some of the ideas that folks come up with.
If you're stressed out in Germany, you could get a prescription in order to go to a spa, so you're not so stressed out anymore. Germany takes care of their citizens, they take care of the workers, and they're capitalists. They do capitalism and socialism better than the United States do. They do both, and we should be doing both too. Hell, we've been doing both anyways. People that want to bitch about socialism, do you get Social Security? Social Security, money taken from the workers, given to you? That's socialism. You're literally a card-carrying socialist.
Sharing and networking initiatives. Online resource inventory, so we know what we have, so people can explore what their options are. Requests for proposals, make those regular. Requests for comments, creating avenues for those who seek employment. In government functions, institutionalized community oversight panels. Community oversight panels, the more the better. It's one of my rights as a city council member to create my own.
If you have a Social Security card, you are literally a card-carrying socialist.
More accountability. That's just all there is to it. I got 30 more seconds. Hang on just a second. Yeah, locals are going to protect their own interests, ensuring actual representation with where the money goes. If we want to bolster our local community and have a stronger local economy, then we got to let the people make the decisions and not a private for-profit corporation. Private for-profit corporation has no business deciding what to do with taxpayer dollars without any accountability. Thanks.
When it comes to Germany, who does socialism and capitalism better than we do, they have free education for American students. They want American students to come to Germany, come one, come all, and they want you. They want the new ideas. They want the new people to come. Germany is almost begging for Americans to go to their country. They have free education, free college. We don't even provide free college here in this country. We don't provide free college. 50 years ago, college was about $100 to $200 a year. $100 to $200 a year. Yeah, you could put yourself through college by working at the local grocery store. You can't do that now. To become a lawyer, you need $250,000 to go to law school. $250,000. $250,000 just to go to law school. I almost think we should ban all lawyers. Just kick all the lawyers out. Lawyers, they don't add anything to the GDP.
Okay, Joshua, how can the city get rid of the community's dilapidated and boarded up properties?
Well, we ought to have some community sharing initiatives and cooperatives that look to repair some of these buildings instead of hiring contractors. We got to look, as in real estate, and the bureaucracy and the hoops you got to jump through are almost endless and turn a lot of people off from being able to rent, to make a profit on their property at the one place that they live, if that's acceptable to them. So we can also look at technology. Current construction methods are so expensive and they're so dangerous. You guys know what 3D printing is? 3D printing for real estate. It's called contour crafting. You can print a 2,000 square foot house in 20 hours, includes in plumbing and electricity. We ought to look towards some of our technology. It's the 21st century last time I checked, and we ought to start employing some of this. Thanks.
That's what they are. That's what these capitalist, sensational, yellow journalistic people are. They are succubuses. They are deer ticks. They'll cover Ricky Muniz getting shot. They'll cover Ricky Muniz getting shot and killed so they can sell more newspapers, but they never follow up with that. They don't actually give a damn about Ricky Muniz. It's about selling papers. It's about peddling their bullshit all across the world. The sensational yellow journalism only gives a shit about their advertisers. They don't give a shit about educating you. That's why the board of directors only had one person running on that race, and that's why the board of the commissioners The civil service commissioners only had one person running in that race. The chieftain didn't educate us. They didn't want us to know. They're not trying to talk to the people. They're talking at the people. It's also why we have such high retention rates. I guarantee you that the average Puebloan cannot even say who their appeals or Supreme Court judges are, but they retained them by 75% by overwhelming margins.
Are we going to raise all boats, or are we going to just raise the yachts? What are we doing here?
What you need for a robust economy is a robust middle class. When you have a robust middle class, that's when you have a good economy, a strong middle class.
Woo! Okay, Joshua, do you think that the city should end its relationship with Black Hills Energy?
Yeah, sooner than current city council proposes. I was talking to Dr. David Cockrell, and he's kind of advising council. He should be more. There are so many different avenues that we can take to be sustainable, to have community-owned municipalities, condemn the distribution system, transmission lines, flow-to-bond revenue. We can even look towards Comanche or San Isabel Electric, who is interested in purchasing outright Black Hills.
The flow to bond revenues, the ratio, flow to bond, he mentioned something about that just real quick. The flow of funds is of critical importance when assessing revenue bonds, the money obligated for the payment of debt service and for the making of other deposits. So the flow to bond revenue, what the hell is Josh Bruns talking about? What is Josh Bruns talking about? So the flow to bond revenue, he's making me look up stuff. I want smart people that will make me look up stuff because they said something that I didn't know anything about. He also said when it comes to Black Hills that we should look at Comanche, the Comanche Electric Cooperative out of Comanche, Texas. He also mentioned that it could be named San Isabel now, but it's a nonprofit rural electric utility cooperative headquartered in Comanche, Texas. The cooperative was organized in 1938, serves portions of 7 counties in Texas. They're a member of the Brazos Electric Power Cooperative, a generation and transmission electric cooperative. Currently, the cooperative has...
Cockrell talks about genuine consultants, and I think that that's something I do on a regular basis with leading authors and who in the transformation movements and who's being sustainable. We live in an area that gets so much sun. It's insane that we're shipping a dirty, limited fuel and during peak oil from the Gulf or from the Canadian border, paying folks up there when we can be making it ourselves.
Pueblo City, we got plenty of options. We can create a municipal electric company. We can have our own muni electric like Cleveland, like Dennis Kucinich did for Cleveland, or we can have this Comanche Electric Cooperative just buy us outright. It's a cooperative, so that seems like it's run by working people. Maybe not, I don't know, but that's an option, right? There's already a company out there that wants to buy Black Hills Energy out, Comanche Electric Cooperative. And so, well, why don't we do that, right? We hate Black Hills. Here's Comanche Electric. Can Comanche Electric do it better? I don't know if we should trust, some outside group in Texas, right? They're trying to make money for their board of directors here. We need municipal electric. We just get a municipal electric right here. That's what we need. Municipal electric. Pueblo City Electric. Pueblo City Electricity. And then we need a trash incinerator. Give us your trash. And we want your trash for free. Free trash drop-off. We'll make electricity out of it to pay for trash.
Joshua?
Yes. Bob Schilling wants to take every dime from the marijuana industry and direct every dime towards the park. So there is agreement across the aisle. I think I'm an independent, so I think I can reach out both ways. But walkability, art creates community. Nature creates community. Learning initiatives for the kids. Yeah, absolutely, we should be bolstering this as much as we can. It creates a sense of space, and you look back towards walkability in terms of creating space. We can have solar trees across the city, citywide Wi-Fi. This is going to get people out onto the streets. When people are out on the streets, again, good for businesses, good for safety, creates an ideal for community. So, yeah, anything we can do to look to what we got, in excess and for the budget, I think to help folks be excited about what makes Colorado. Absolutely, I'll support that. Thanks.
What Denmark wants, Denmark is the happiest country in the world, and they have an 80% tax rate. Denmark is the happiest country, and they got socialism. They got socialism, but they still get high businesses. How do they get all these businesses to come into a socialist country, a country that has high tax rates and lots of social programs? Why would businesses go into a country like that? I'll tell you why, because Denmark has a heavily or high educated population, so they're all educated, so plenty of people to choose from for businesses to employ, lots of intelligent, educated people, and a high standard of living. And a high standard of living, that's what Denmark has. High standard of living, lots of educated workers for these companies.
We're going to raise all boats, or are we going to just raise the yachts? What are we doing here? So I'd like to look into this further. I think it will pass, but and when it does, hey, more community oversight. For what roads, what type of, if it's just going to be resurfacing, that kind of stuff. So.
And then who could forget Amendment 71, where they actually asked a ballot initiative, do you want to kill ballot initiatives? And they said yes. And why did people believe that? Because they got a little card in their mailbox. So direct mailings, I mean, and then look at the governing class. All he is saying is that working class people should be running things. So who's running things right now? Peter Roper wants to keep everything the same. So let's take a look at the opinion. Let's look at the editorial board of the Pueblo Chieftain. Let's look at the board of directors for the Chieftain. Are there any working class people? Can they name one plumber? Can they name one electrician? Can they name one, janitor that's actually on the board of directors of the Pueblo Chieftain? Get the fuck out of here. Those are a bunch of bankers, lawyers, rich, 1% elitists. They're there to make money. They don't give a shit about actually informing and telling you what you need to know. That's why this turnout rate is probably going to be about 35%, because the Chieftain, the Lone Daily, controls the narrative of this city, and that narrative sucks.
Yeah, more community oversight. That is direct democracy. We're not elevating folks to single positions. Where Lashira Giron said change comes from the top. She's absolutely mistaken. Change comes from the bottom.
They don't believe that working class people have a place. Peter Roper and the Pueblo Chieftain don't believe that working class people have a place in Pueblo City. And you know what's interesting about that, Peter Roper? The working class are what keep this entire city going. So you want to be against the working class? You don't want any working class people on the editorial board or on the board of directors of the Pueblo Chieftain, because you are only a lackey. You're a lackey, and you're just kissing your 1% banker, lawyer, elite establishment class's ass. The governing class. You think the governing class is for workers? No. Instead, they're for socialism, for the rich. They are using the government, PEDCO, these corporations, they're using the government to their benefit. That's the problem that government could be. Government is a tool. Either government could be used for the people to go after the corporations, or they could be for the corporations who go after the people.
So we are going to give community oversight panels for any of this, online forums, comments, requests for proposals. Thank you.
The thing that Josh Bruns had said at this debate was that he was in favor of oversight. Who could be against oversight? Only the corrupt would be against oversight. The three branches of government has everybody checking everybody. That's what prevents tyranny. So to be against oversight is anti-American. Peter Roper and the Pueblo Chieftain, you're anti-American. Your monopoly's anti-American. Your bullshit's anti-American. He's for oversight and sustainability. Guess what? We've been radically sustaining. We've been radically sufficient ourselves. You know, the government doesn't really give a damn. We have to survive ourselves. This is a capitalistic society. Dog eat dog. So if you don't fight for yourself, then you'll go down. Some sink, some swim, right? So if you were to ask me what Josh Bruns actually believes, I would say he believes in a mixed system. Some capitalism, some socialism, because that's common sense. It's common sense. But Peter Roper, he's anti-common sense. He's not of the working class. He don't get common sense.
Woo! Joshua, do you support either of the ballot measures to increase sales taxes to pay for more police officers or community programming? If so, which of the two proposals do you support?
I support 300A, and I'm going to tell you why.
The only liberal thing about him is that he gives a damn. He cares. But all of his solutions seems to be rooted in capitalism. So when he says that we need recycling centers, for-profit recycling centers, that's a capitalistic idea. That is pro-capitalism. Josh Bruns also says that he doesn't want big government. He wants government to stay out of the way. He's also against subsidies, and he's against handouts. He's against subsidies. He's against handouts. So he wants to fix the homelessness problem and the poor problem without handouts, without subsidies, and without government involvement. So essentially, he wants the people of Pueblo City to learn how to fish. He's not going to hand you a fish, but he's going to show you the ropes, and he's going to point out where all the resources that Pueblo City has, but they haven't been telling the people what they got. He's going to make...
300 Day is riddled with community oversight. And that's what I stand for. We're going to have a specific officer, and it's the same amount of officers for 2A as 300 Day, but 300 Day spells it out. It was an initiative brought forward by the community. So we're going to have an officer for a neighborhood borough specifically that's accountable to the people. I think it's bi-quarterly.
Make that point very, very clear. He's not for handouts. He's not for handouts. What he thinks is the best way one of the best ways, one of his ideas, in order to help the poor and the homeless people and working class and even middle class, everybody. Just what services does Pueblo City offer? They are not good at telling everybody what they offer. They only help their friends and their buddies, and hell, go to the clerk's office, and that secretary don't know shit about shit. She didn't even know that there was a board of waterworks or civil commissioners that was running. So these city clerks, the secretaries to the city clerk doesn't even know about it. So they'll be rude to you. They're stupid. They don't know what the hell's going on. You drive all the way out there and they'll look at you like you're dumb.
And 2A just throws forth, hey, more officers in the current policing paradigm. Well, the current policing paradigm is supportive of what is called retributive justice, which is just desserts, an eye for an eye, instead of restorative justice, where we want to bring these people back into the community so they can be contributive members of the community and not throw them into jails over and over for recidivism. How can we solve the problem at its root? Thank you.
The city has 15 departments. There's a legislative, executive, judicial branch. There's 15 departments, 1,000, 2, 3, maybe, city employees. They are all our servants. We pay their taxes, and they should listen to us. But they have no respect for the people. They got zero respect. The secretary of the city clerk's office in Pueblo City will lie to your face. Nope, there is no board of waterworks running. Nope, there is no civil service commissioners running. That's what the secretary of the city clerk will tell you. And that's the secretary. So Gina is very nice, and she'll tell you everything that you need to know. But I wonder, why does she have people that's stupid, that doesn't want to talk to the public, that doesn't want to inform the public of what the hell is going on? That should never happen to anybody. The government should be for the people, and Josh Bruns wants to connect the 15 departments of government to the 107,000 people. Right now, 107,000 people are not using the government resources when they could.
Are we going to raise all boats, or are we going to just raise the yachts? What are we doing here?
Do you think that PEDCO has been effective, or should the city change its economic development approach?
All right, I'm going to say again, Joe Latino's worried about $60 million up in the air, so let's take a look at that. How about
Joshua Bruns mentioned quotidian. So for Peter Roper, I'm going to go ahead and explain what quotidian is. According to the dictionary, it's of or occurring every day, daily, ordinary, or every day, especially when mundane. So that's what quotidian means. Josh Bruns isn't trying to dumb down his speech. He's not condescending down to us. He's trying to connect with us. He actually wants to communicate with us, unlike the chieftain. The chieftain just wants to yell at us and tell us what to do. If it bleeds, it leads. If it's gory, it's a story. All those yellow, muck-raking sons of bitches give a shit about is a sensational story. So here's a big shooting. They don't give a damn that Ricky Munez was shot. They sold more newspapers that day, and the more newspapers you pick up, the audience is the product. So the more newspapers you pick up, the happier the advertisers are. In fact, that's the news hole. Once you got all the ads in the newspaper, then you got to fill up the news hole with a bunch of crap.
How about some community oversight? How about some accountability and transparency? We got a private corporation taking taxpayer dollars and without any accountability to try to bring in big businesses here. One of the articles in the Pulp was talking about how we want to beautify the city so that a CEO's wife likes to shop here. That way the CEO will want to bring his business here. That is ridiculous. We want to talk about functionality over fashion.
Josh Bruns' analysis on PEDCO is 100%. $60 million is just sitting there. $60 million. And what do we use that money for? To wine and dine all the CEOs of Walmart, of irresponsible corporations that pay minimum wage. They're not green, they're not organic, they're not responsible, they're not socially responsible. So why would we want to bring these irresponsible corporations in here? Just like the Sperry Corporation, just like Fred Weisbrod, the city manager with the Sperry Corporation about 50 years ago, paid them $8 million, they spent $6 million, they kept $6 million of it, and then they sold everything 2 years later. So that's what we're doing. We can't use that money to develop our own grocery store so we can eat. We can't use that money to get an acre to get a big rock candy mountain homeless town for our homeless. We don't have $1 million for that. We don't have $1 million to rehab our jail, but we got $60 million to wine and dine the wives of CEOs.
Yeah.
Okay, Joshua, do you think that the city has handled the retail marijuana business appropriately?
Well, okay, after door knocking, you can't say anything and not make someone angry about this issue. I think that it's not very transparent. I would like to see unbridled transparency here. That seems to be one of the main issues. As far as, the amount of stores, people are talking about the free market, and we see how much sales, are involved. Also,
Self-sustainability, worker cooperatives, self-sustainability, worker cooperatives, and oversight boards, oversight committee, lots of oversight. That's why he's in favor of question 300, because it's got lots of oversight. And then he also mentioned just throwing it into the paradigm. That's what we're talking about right now. Do you want 2B, just throw 24 police officers into the paradigm, or do you want question 300, which is a more thoughtful, it's a more detailed plan? Personally, I can't stand 300. I think it's racist and it's backwards and it's wrong. But Josh Bruns' explanation actually almost turned me in favor of it.
As long as it's not, extremely private, ownership, when we've got, folks from all over the country who want to capitalize on this industry, as long as it's, worker owned, I think that we can be, and transparent, we can be happy with this industry.
Yeah.
Doctors of social, economic, and political thought, along with current transformation movements. I am a philosopher of society and economics and politics. I hope that was clear. I'm a lifelong student of these subjects. Because I can provide the insight necessary, our transformation is why I seek a leadership role. I'm Josh Bruns, District 3. This is my competitor, Ed Brown. You know who to vote for. Thanks.
Then he points out he wants unbridled oversight, unbridled transparency, unbridled. So without limit, complete transparency, And the only way you'll get that is with oversight boards.
So much sun, it's insane that we're shipping a dirty, limited fuel and drink peak oil from the Gulf or from the Canadian border, paying folks up there when we could be making it ourselves. Doctors of social, economic, and political thought, along with current transformation movements. I am a philosopher of society and economics and politics. I hope that was clear. I think we ought to look towards creating worker-owned, community-owned facilities, distribution, sales, because when the workers own the means of production, when the workers own the excess money, they spend it back in the community. So